Look, here we are under a gum tree, and look what I found. I found this sandalwood nut growing. I didn't know it was here. I was very happy to find it because, well, I would have thought that the kangaroo would have got to it. Look how tall it is, about 2 feet tall. It's all woody, and it's a source of bush tucker, edible nuts. It's from Western Australia, but I'm in the Lachlan Valley, and I'm growing them here. Lyle Dudley of Bush Foods Australia, he gave me some seeds. I bought quandong seeds off him, but he gave me some sandalwood seeds, and they've come up. They come up really easily. I planted them all over the place, and they just come up all over the place. And there's a source of expensive sandalwood. Sandalwood is very expensive, one of the world's most expensive timbers, and it's also used to make sandalwood oil for incense and perfume, soaps and things. And it has an edible nut. This is Santalum spicatum, S-P-I-C-A-T-U-M. It has been a bush food of Australia's first people for, thousands of years, yes. Has an edible nut. It's a gourmet nut nowadays for people in fancy restaurants. I'm being disturbed by somebody. Just a little interruption. Yes, where was I? Sandalwood, Santalum, spicatum. I can see a tiny caterpillar enjoying itself. So, yes, I got them for $40 per kilogram plus GST. That was 2 years ago now that I planted them in April 2015 according to this note I made. So it's about 2.5 years old now, this one. And had I given it water, I didn't even know this one was here, so it wasn't watered, and we've had a drought for this past winter. It didn't rain at all, so it must have survived here on its own. Now it's growing under a gum tree, and that means there's no frost immediately under this tree. It's growing right near the trunk, so there's no frost. We have frost in the Lachlan Valley here, where I am, and this would have been, if this were out there, this seedling would have been subject to more frost. But because it's here, it's in a nice frost-free position under an evergreen gum tree. If you look under a gum tree, the frost usually falls in a circle outside a certain, whatever it's called. So it's frost hardy enough, and it's drought hardy. And the kangaroo didn't find it. I think it's because it's growing near this Aleppo pine that the kangaroo probably didn't notice, or it would have nibbled it down. It's a source of edible nuts. Apparently emus eat the nuts too. The emus eat the nuts, and the young trees spring up from the emu droppings. The emus swallow the nuts whole. So that's interesting. So I'm in the Lachlan Valley where we have very heavy clay soil, and we have hot, dry summers, and the winters can be dry sometimes too, and we have heavy frosts. So these Western Australian Santalum spicatum sandalwood nuts can survive here. I'll just show you it close up. So I planted these sandalwood nuts in April 2015. I bought them from Lyle Dudley of bushfoodaustralia.com. He was a very obliging chap, very friendly and obliging. I bought quandong seeds, and he also gave me some sandalwood nuts to try for free. And this is them. This is they. And anyway, they're doing very well. Quite drought hardy, quite frost hardy. Even the ones growing out in the there are some growing out in the frost. They struggle more, but when they're smaller, but they get to this good height. There's a little caterpillar up higher. A couple of them. Small caterpillars. Where's one? There's a caterpillar just there. That's a caterpillar. So they're an important source of sandalwood oil and sandalwood timber, sandalwood nuts. Nuts are important bush tucker. There's nothing to stop this tree growing now. You can see it's a good size. It's got a host tree. The gum tree can be a host tree. There are acacias growing here and there around this garden. They're hemiparasitic, whatever that means. So they get some nutrients apparently out of a host tree. A bit like mistletoe, I suppose. Very tough. So, all in all, a very good little bush tucker species that is drought resistant and frost resistant. Frost resistant enough. And if you want to plant it under a tree, it's going to have even more frost protection. And they're growing here in New South Wales. And in some years to come, there will be nuts, gourmet nuts provided from this, plus fragrant timber. And that's planted April 2015. So it's 2.5 years old, this one. But I've got one up there, over there, that's twice the size. And this part's green, so this is obviously the last year it's grown that much. And some are very small. They obviously come up at their own rate anyway. I'm just looking forward to the delicious nuts. See you then. Look at the trunk of this sandalwood tree. It's as thick as a pencil. And it's also 2.5 years old. This one's as thick as a pencil. Or a biro. It's handy to know. It's short. This one's 30 centimetres high. But it's very bushy, this short one. It's very bushy. It's short and bushy. There's a tall one that's much higher, but it's not as thick. The tallest one isn't as thick as this one. In this pot we have several sandalwoods all grown from seeds. They're all 2.5 years old. Look, this one here, this one's only a few inches high, that one. The one I just showed you, that's thick as a pencil. It's, yes, that's nice and thick. The tallest one, over here, is not as thick as a pencil. It's pretty thick, but not as thick as a pencil. That's the tallest one. Very tall. Very tall. It'll be as tall as I am by the end of this season. Very tall, that one. But you can see they all seem to come up at their own rate. Though this is an artificial situation because it's a pot, isn't it? It's just a pot. This one isn't very high. This one over there is only a few inches. I think most of them all came up at the same time. They're obviously struggling against each other. That one's only a few inches high too. So obviously they can't all succeed when they're all growing in a pot together. They just can't. They just can't. There's a smaller one too. It's smaller. It's big, but it's smaller. One last thing, I noticed that sandalwoods are much easier to grow than quandongs. So these sandalwoods came up just about 100% really, 100% of the nuts all came up. So they're much easier to grow than quandongs. Don't forget, if you want them for eating, you don't plant them under a poisonous tree. This is poison, and these privets are poison, and their roots come up into this pot. So if you're going to plant your sandalwood or your quandongs, you don't plant them near poisonous trees like oleander or white cedar. You plant them under an acacia trees or gum trees.